Singapore Changi Airport has a 40-meter indoor waterfall. It has a butterfly garden, a hedge maze, a rooftop swimming pool, and a movie theater. It has won the title of World's Best Airport 13 times. 13. And in September 2024, Singapore's own Prime Minister stood at an official government dinner and said this about the airports being built around it. They are narrowing the gap with Singapore. Increasingly, flights that would have passed through Changi may no longer be needed. That is not an analyst's warning from somebody trying to sell research. That is the leader of Singapore at a government ceremony saying the world's best airport is under threat. This is the story of how the airport that does everything right is still running out of time.
Let me show you the gap between the awards and the reality. Changi won Skytrax World's Best Airport in 2025. It also won it in 2023, in 2021, in 2019, 13 times total. The trophy case is real. But Doha's Hamad International won it in 2022 and again in 2024, directly stealing the crown twice in 3 years. Dubai wins the World Travel Awards version, World's Leading Airport, for the 6th consecutive year in 2025. And in the OAG Megahubs Index, which measures how connected an airport actually is to the rest of the world, Changi doesn't appear in the global top 10 at all. Not number 9, not number 10, not in the top 10. Meanwhile, Istanbul Airport jumped from 8th to 2nd in that same ranking in a single year. Kuala Lumpur, 2 hours up the road, now ranks as Asia-Pacific's most connected airport, beating Changi in the region Changi is supposed to own. You can win 13 awards and still be losing the competition that matters. And right now, Changi is doing both simultaneously. Before you understand the threat, you need to understand what makes Changi special, because the airport genuinely is exceptional, and glossing over the rest of the story is dishonest. Changi handled nearly 70 million passengers in 2025, an all-time record. On December 20th, 2025 alone, 223,000 people moved through that single airport in one day. Singapore Airlines posted its best financial result in history the same year, a net profit of 2.78 billion Singaporean dollars. The airline and the airport feed each other, and right now both are at peak health. The Jewel, the $1.25 billion complex that opened inside the airport in 2019, is unlike anything built at any other airport in the world. The HSBC Rain Vortex is 40 meters, the world's largest indoor waterfall, surrounded by 7 floors of gardens, restaurants, and retail. It draws millions of visitors who never even board a plane. Changi turned the concept of a layover into a reason to choose Singapore on purpose. Minimum connection time at Changi, 50 to 90 minutes, one of the fastest processing speeds of any major hub on Earth. Immigration, security, baggage, the whole system runs with a precision that airports 3 times its size can't match. And the passenger experience rankings reflect this. Changi consistently wins Best Airport Dining, Cleanest Airport, Most Dedicated Staff, Most Enjoyable Airport. These aren't marketing claims. Passengers vote for them. So the airport is not struggling. It's not bleeding passengers. It's not falling apart. It's just being surrounded by airports growing twice as fast, connecting far more of the world, and spending money at a scale that even Singapore has to take seriously.
In 2024, Istanbul Airport handled 80.4 million passengers. Changi handled 67.7 million. Istanbul is already bigger, and it's growing faster. In the OAG International Seat Capacity Rankings for 2025, Changi sits 4th globally with 42.6 million international seats, growing at 3% year-over-year. Istanbul sits 5th with 41.2 million seats, growing at 7%. At those rates, Istanbul overtakes Changi in international seat capacity within the next 2 to 3 years. And once Istanbul passes Changi on that metric, it becomes very difficult to argue Changi is the dominant Asian gateway. But the connectivity data is even more striking than the raw seat numbers. Turkish Airlines now flies to 352 destinations in 131 countries, more countries than any airline on Earth. It controls about 80% of all flights at Istanbul Airport, and in April 2025, Istanbul became the first airport in Europe to operate 3 independent runways simultaneously. Hourly capacity jumped 23% in a single day. The OAG Mega Hubs Index, the ranking that measures how many unique one-stop connections a hub enables, showed Istanbul jumping from 8th to 2nd globally in 1 year, a 25% increase in potential connections in 12 months. Here's why that matters for Changi specifically. Istanbul and Changi are hunting the same passenger, the business traveler going from a European city to somewhere in Asia, the African executive connecting to a Southeast Asian destination, the South Asian professional heading to Australia. These are the connecting passengers that made Changi's model work for 40 years. Istanbul now intercepts many of those passengers before they ever reach Asia. A traveler going from Vienna to Bangkok used to connect through Changi or Dubai. Now Turkish Airlines offers Vienna to Istanbul to Bangkok on its own metal, with competitive timing and a connecting experience that's won international recognition. The geography isn't as clean as Changi's for Asia-Pacific routes. Istanbul is further west, but the price is often lower, the frequency is high, and Turkish Airlines is adding capacity faster than almost any airline on Earth. The target isn't 80 million passengers. Istanbul is building toward 200 million. 6 runways total, 4 construction phases, completion in 2028. It's being designed to eventually become the largest airport in the world by capacity, built on what used to be a coal mine. Opened only in 2019, already bigger than Changi.
Istanbul is the speed threat. Doha is the quality threat. Hamad International Airport in Qatar handled 52.7 million passengers in 2024, smaller than Changi by a significant margin. But size is not the point. Doha runs approximately 74% of its passengers as connecting travelers, people who land, walk to another gate, and leave without ever entering Qatar. Changi's connecting passenger share is approximately 26%. Read those numbers carefully. Nearly 3/4 of everyone who flies through Doha is using it purely as a bridge between 2 other places. That is what a transit hub looks like in pure form. Qatar Airways flies to over 170 countries, and every one of those routes feeds the connecting machine at Hamad. Changi's 26% isn't a failure. It reflects the fact that Singapore is a real, wealthy, populous destination. Millions of passengers are genuinely starting or ending their journey there. That's a strength. But when you're competing for the title of the world's greatest transit hub, the competitor running 74% connecting traffic is optimizing for something different and doing it at a level Changi structurally cannot match. And Doha stole the Skytrax crown outright in 2022 and 2024, not edged it, won it. The world voted Doha's airport as better than Changi's twice in the last 4 years. The quality arms race between these 2 airports is real. Doha has 35,000 square meters of retail, 40+ luxury brands, and won World's Best Airport Shopping in 2025. Changi has the Jewel and the Waterfall and the Butterfly Garden, 2 different visions of what makes an airport worth stopping at, and both have won the top prize within the same 4-year window. Here's the part that Singapore's Prime Minister was actually talking about, and it's the one no amount of indoor waterfalls can fix. Aircraft are getting better at flying long distances without stopping. Qantas has been developing what it calls Project Sunrise, non-stop flights from Sydney to London and Sydney to New York. The aircraft needed to do this, the Airbus A350-1000 ultra-long range, has delivery dates pushed to at least late 2027. But it's coming, and when it operates, a passenger flying from Sydney to London won't need to stop anywhere. Not in Changi, not in Dubai, not in Doha. Singapore sits roughly halfway between Europe and Australia. For decades, that made it the logical stopping point. As aircraft range increases, that advantage disappears route by route. The Boeing 777X, the Airbus A350FF, the next generation of ultra-long-range freighters, every one of these aircraft removes a category of passenger or cargo that previously had to stop somewhere in the middle. And somewhere in the middle describes Changi's geographic value almost exactly.
The Prime Minister said it plainly. Flights that would have passed through Changi may no longer be needed. He said this at the Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore's 40th anniversary dinner in September 2024. Not a private memo, a public speech. Singapore's government is telling its own aviation sector on the record that the model is changing and they need to adapt. That is the most honest admission you will find from any government about their own flagship infrastructure, and it's worth sitting with for a moment.
The government is not just warning, it's spending. On May 14, 2025, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, the same man who gave that warning 9 months earlier, broke ground on Terminal 5. The cost is roughly $10 billion and rising. Singapore's 2025 national budget added $5 billion specifically to the Changi Airport Development Fund to ensure T5 gets built without compromising on scope. Terminal 5 adds 50 million passengers of capacity per year, more than Terminals 1 and 3 combined. It will be Singapore Airlines' new home terminal. It comes with a new 3-runway system, a smart cargo hub, an aviation park, underground cross-runway tunnels, and solar panels across the roof. Construction contracts of $4.75 billion have already been awarded. The target when T5 is complete, sometime in the mid-2030s, more than 200 city connections. Currently, Changi reaches about 163 cities. The gap between 163 and 200 plus is where the airline development strategy kicks in. Here's the thing I keep coming back to. Changi's competitors are not doing anything wrong. Istanbul isn't cheating, Doha isn't gaming the system. Direct long-haul aircraft aren't some unfair advantage. These are the normal forces of a competitive industry operating at full speed. The challenge for Changi is that it built the world's best airport precisely for the era of connecting flights and mid-journey stops. The butterfly garden, the waterfall, the 50-minute minimum connection time, all of it was designed around a world where passengers needed to stop in Singapore. As that world slowly changes, the airport that won 13 awards doing things the right way has to figure out how to stay essential to a passenger who might not need to stop anywhere. Terminal 5 is the answer they're betting on. $10 billion says Singapore thinks size and quality together can hold the line. It might work. Singapore has a history of executing infrastructure that seemed implausible until it was finished. But the Prime Minister already told you what keeps him up at night. The waterfall is still the tallest indoor waterfall in the world. The airports around it are getting taller every year.